It is officially another losing season for the New York Jets. Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Sunday, December 1st, and the New York Jets just wrapped up their Week 13 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks about 10 minutes ago as they fell to the Seahawks 26-21. They fall to 3-9 on the season, falling to 2-4 at home. And for the Seattle Seahawks, they went across the country, found a way to get a win. They improved to 7-5 on the year, fall to 4 or improve to 4-1 on the road this season as they pick up the 5-point victory, 26-21 for the Seahawks. This is also their third straight victory. For the Jets, like I said, another losing season, their ninth straight losing season, and their third straight loss. Of course, falling to Arizona, Indy, bye week, and now here against the Seahawks. I mean, there's not much more I need to say. This was another typical same old Jets type of loss. This is episode 437. Hopefully you are, or thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you're trying to enjoy your Sunday despite this loss. This was another same old Jets typical loss. I mean, there's not really much more that needs to be said. It was a crazy game, a wild game with a whole lot of twists, a whole lot of turns, 2 blocked field goals, punt return or kick return rather for the Jets, 2 kickoff fumbles for the Seahawks, 3 where they dropped the kickoff. 2 of them they lost for a fumble. I mean, just a crazy first half. Jets early on in the game were moving the football. They went into halftime up 21-16, and then typical Jets fashion, the way this season has kind of gone, you had the Leonard Williams pick six. You had the Garrett Wilson overthrow in the end zone by Rodgers. And then the very next play, you had the Leonard Williams pick six. And that was kind of the turning point in the game. Once that play happened, you kind of knew that the Jets were going to find a way to lose this game. The way the half ended, the Jets didn't call a timeout when Seattle had possession, could have potentially got 3, could have potentially got the ball back. The way the half ended, you had that pick six after what was a promising start. The Jets, you kind of knew going into halftime, this was going to be one of those games. And they get shut out in the second half, and they find a way to lose another game. And that's just been the story of the Jets. Ian O'Connor, of course, is an author, wrote the Aaron Rodgers book, tweeted out a couple weeks ago that the New York Jets are the Kansas City Chiefs of losing. And he's 100% right. The Chiefs always find ways to win. Sometimes they're weird. Sometimes they're wacky, whether it's, sometimes there's calls that go their way, whatever it is. But the Chiefs always find ways to win, right? We saw it against the Raiders. Ball bounces off of Aiden O'Connell's chest. They had 3 missed field goals in that game. They found a way to beat them. That Broncos game, they blocked the field goal. There's been so many different ways the Chiefs have found ways to win games. The Jets are the opposite of that. They are the complete 180 of that. They just find different ways to lose every single week, and that's what bad teams do. I mean, you go down the list this season in some of these losses, and they're all different ways. Today, it was the story of penalties down the stretch. Bad clock management. You can make a case before the second half to potentially get the ball back and maybe do something with it. It was the overthrows. There was many opportunities today for Aaron Rodgers and his offense to connect on some deep balls, and they missed them. It was the Garrett Wilson overthrow in the end zone. It was the pick six. I mean, you can point to about 4 to 5 different things that took place today. The biggest one, in my opinion, being that pick six, because that began to change the momentum. At that point, the Jets were up 21-7 with a chance to take a 28-7 lead. The pick six happens 21-14, and that was the end of it. That was pretty much it. That started the Seahawks run where the Jets went non-existent in the second half. Defense started to get worn down a little bit. Kenneth Walker started to find some running lanes. There was a whole lot of penalties, terrible coaching, undisciplined football. We all know it's the same different ways every week that they lose, and then there's like new things, right? The penalties are always a problem. The undisciplined football, the bad coaching, that's always been an issue. But The overthrows became even more of a glaring problem because they took a lot more deep shots today. And even the Leonard Williams pick six was the big new way, right? You get a defensive lineman has a pick six, needs to get oxygen on the sideline. That was the big one today. So, look, I'm broken. We all are broken. There's not even any real it's not even worth it getting upset over this team. I mean, legitimately, I'm sitting there watching that Leonard Williams pick six, and I'm just sitting there in silence all day. I didn't scream once. I didn't get mad once. I think we're all broken. This is the same old Jets. Like, there's nothing more to say at this point other than they're a really, really bad football team that are really, really poorly coached. And you just got to look beyond 2025 because that's what the organization already does. I mean, this team's pretty much a lame duck franchise right now. They don't have a general manager. They don't have a head coach. The quarterback that's under center right now better not be under center in 2025. He probably won't be, especially after another loss like he had today, where he has the pick six, has a chance late in that game to do something and couldn't. So, look, it helps the draft pick. That's really all you can hang your hat on at this point is they're going to lose. Hey, at least it helps the draft pick, and that's where I'm at. Like, I'm just done getting upset over losses this season. The team stinks. It's a waste of time, wasting your energy, getting angry at a team that just does not have it week in and week out. So 3-9 on the year. A couple of things I wanted to point out, though. I mean, 12 men on the field, 2 neutral zone infractions today, 2 lined up in the neutral zone. Right, you had Leonard Taylor, which ended up didn't mean anything because by the way, the Seahawks, let me just say this. The Seahawks did everything in their power today to lose this game. And the Jets in the second half also did everything in their power today to lose this game. Both of these teams, neither of them wanted to win today's game, but someone had to, and it was, of course, Seattle, because they were just a little bit better down the stretch, and the Jets kept shooting themselves in the foot. But you had 2 of those lined up in the neutral zone. Leonard Taylor on the goal line situation where obviously Geno ended up getting sacked. They ended up getting a stop despite there being a pass interference, new set of downs. They were on the 1-yard line for what felt like 20 minutes. It felt like they were on the 1-yard line for an entire quarter, and Seattle couldn't score. You had that, and then you had Will McDonald, who, by the way, had a great game today. He's had a very good season. He's one of the lone bright spots on this team. One of the lone bright spots, one of the lone players where this point of the season as a fan from a viewership perspective, you start to just watch individuals, not really the team as a whole. I was watching, there was a couple plays where you just wanted to watch Olu, see what he looked like. A couple plays where, Will McDonald, just watching him is fun. He's a really good player. He's had a really good season. At this point in the season, you kind of start to watch just individuals and see what you're getting out of those guys. Had a great day today, but also lined up in the neutral zone. Now, it wouldn't have mattered because it was kind of the tuck rule, ended up being ruled an incompletion, but it was a fumble at the time, and they recovered it. Now, it wouldn't have mattered, but either way, that's a potential swing there in that game. Instead, it's a 5-yard penalty, and I believe it's set up. I believe it was 5-yard penalty, whatever. I forget whatever happened the next play or whatever after that, but still, like those 2 penalties. Then Seattle, their punter's hurt. The offense is on the field. They're not fooling anybody. It's not like they're running a fake punt like Geno's going to step back and punt it. All they had to do was just set up their defense and get ready to go. And they got 12 men on the field on 4th down, 2 major 4th down penalties. They also had a big 4th down penalty earlier in the game. So penalties on 4th down, 12 men on the field. They had one play where they had to blow a timeout early in the 3rd quarter because they had a late switch because they had 12 men. They had too many men on the field. They had a late switch. They had to blow a timeout because of it, or else they would have gotten flagged for it. I mean, there's so many little things that this team does. They just melt every single week, and it's so sad. The coaching is so poor, and that's where I like part of you as a Jet fan feels like this can't get any worse. Now, we are Jets fans, and this is the 9th straight losing season. Right, the last time they had a winning season was 2015. Didn't even make the playoffs that year. Of course, the Fitzpatrick season where you go 10-6, end up going up in the Buffalo and blowing it. Don't want to cause any more pain. We're already having pain as Jets fans, so don't need to go down that road. But like, there's moments like this in these games where this team is so poorly coached that you feel like no matter what they do at coach this season, this offseason, you feel like it's an automatic, it's at least it's an automatic upgrade. That's how bad this coaching staff is. Whoever the heck this team brings in, it's an automatic upgrade, at least for the time being, because of how incompetent they are. You know, you can even, like I said in the intro, and I don't want to get too much on this because I don't know if it really would have made much of a difference. But I mean, even before halftime, both teams really, you could have made the case Seattle should have blown a timeout and tried to make more of a push for it. But when the Jets realized Seattle was just mailing it in, they should have trusted their defense, which shows you Ulbrich has no faith in this defense. As much as he tries to talk about it, they have no faith in defense, which I don't really blame them. Again, today was the defense hurting themselves with penalties and blowing it late in this game, which they've done all year. How many times did we talk about, oh, this defense? Can't wait to see this defense play with leads. They had a lead. They had a chance to put this game away, and they allowed Seattle to go down there on a 9-play, 71-yard drive and score a touchdown. And a lot of that was helped by self-inflicted wounds. Yes, I said it. I'm pulling a Robert Saleh quote out. Self-inflicted wounds. That's what it is. They had 12 penalties today for 83 yards. A lot of those coming late in this game, in the second half when it matters most. But that's where we're at. Like, this coaching staff, everything they do, there's like 5-6 different things you can point to today. And they don't know what they're doing. They're clueless. They're so clueless. So, I mean, this is 21-7. You're up in this game. Seattle had no business. They did not even want to win this game. They were sleepwalking pretty much through this game, through the first 3 quarters. And then the Jets thought it was only a 3-quarter game, and they blew it. You know, when you break down the offense, you break down the defense. I mean, look, Rodgers, you still get those miscommunications. You still get a lot of those overthrows. The Garrett one was the worst of them all. Beautiful double move by Garrett. Perfect. All he has to do is just throw him a lob. He doesn't have to lob it. There was nobody in the area, and he overthrows him. You had a couple Devontae overthrows. You had the one on 4th down that Devontae dropped. If you could maybe get on Devontae and say he should have caught it, it was in his hands, fine, but he had to dive for it. That's, if we're being honest, Rodgers, future Hall of Famer, we brought him here to put that ball in a bucket. That should not be a ball that he needs to dive for, especially on 4th down when you need to be pretty much perfect. So, look, Rodgers' career, he's got to be better. We got to hold Rodgers to a higher standard. We can't sit here and say, oh, Devontae's got to catch that. Yeah, he should have caught it. It was a dive. He probably, if we're being honest, Devontae, if he gets that ball again, he probably makes it. But, hey, guess what? You know, your Hall of Fame quarterback that was supposed to save this franchise should make that play. So, I'm so sick of Rodgers. I've said it. I don't even know what more to say. You guys know where I stand on Rodgers. Me sitting here dissecting his performance, just not going to move the needle, I don't think, for anybody. I mean, early in the game, they had some success. It was another one of these games, though, where you look at his stat line. He threw for 185 yards. 185. He didn't even throw for 200 yards. I mean, he doesn't, like, it's crazy. I think it's been, 34 straight games, I think, since his last 300-yard performance. And that's another thing. All this offense talks about is, oh, we need to score 30. We need to score 30. They haven't sniffed 30 this year. The closest they've gotten to scoring 30, they lost because Anthony Richardson went down the field and scored late in that Colts game where they lost by 28-27, of course. So the overthrows, early in the game, he came out with a lot of energy. I mean, he was throwing blocks. Like I said, it was a totally different Jets team. But when it comes to halftime, comes to adjustments, down the stretch, it ultimately falls on coaching and discipline. They never have it, and that's what's plagued this team all year. But Rodgers finished 21 of 39, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Got sacked twice. They were 2 big sacks. The one, Isaiah Davis ended up actually getting 24 of it back after the sack, and then the other one, of course, was on 3rd down, created a 4th and long situation, threw it up to Garrett, nowhere to be found. Garrett was running a post. Rodgers threw a go ball. I don't know if that was just Rodgers. He was under pressure, just throwing it up there, trying to see if maybe they could draw a penalty or whatever, but he would have given Garrett a whole lot better of a shot if he threw it across the middle of the field, as opposed to back of the end zone where Garrett had to readjust his route and was nowhere even near it. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, you talk about, right, these reports we've heard coming out about Rodgers needs to play well down the stretch to get another opportunity to come back next year down the final 6 games. Well, today was not a good start for that. So for any of you that say, oh, if Rodgers plays well, I want him back. For those of you in that boat, which I don't know why you want to even be in that boat. For those of you there, well, today was not a good start. And the next 5 games probably aren't going to get any better. So in terms of the run game, Braylon Allen, I thought, had a couple nice runs today. He also had a couple nice receptions. I thought they got him more involved today, which was, good to see. Like I said, at this point in the year, you want to evaluate some of these young guys. So I thought Braylon Allen was the most active he's been since a while. Brees was banged up. He's obviously had the injury, so he didn't get a ton of touches today. Was in, out on the sideline getting worked on. I think most of us agree you'd like to see Brees get the ball more than 12 times, but the biggest problem with Brees is the fumbles. He fumbled twice today. He lost one of them. And he's had 6 fumbles this year. He's had 3 in his 2 years before this. This year, he's had 6 fumbles. So that's been a problem for Brees this year. It's been a problem. He's had some struggles holding on to the football, and today was no different. I think he had the fumble in the Denver game. He had a fumble against San Fran, I know. 2 fumbles today. That's 4. I can't think right off the top of my head where the other 2 came from. I'm sure I could probably think about it, but right now recording, I'm not going to sit here and dig deep into my memory bank for that one. But the 2 fumbles, he's got to hold on to the football. It's been a problem this year. It's been a problem. He hasn't lost all of them, but the ones he loses definitely kill more. And today was another one of these days. Can't have 2 fumbles in a game, especially a game like this if you want to win and lose one. So run game, 89 yards. I mean, that's pretty much it. By the way, I have a stat too for Rodgers. The Jets this season have had 5 opportunities to go down and score a touchdown late in games. And Rodgers leading the way. One of the biggest reasons we brought Rodgers here, right? Late in games, we know what the history is. This season, Rodgers, they're 0-5 in those games. So that just shows you. That he's been nothing but a disaster. One of his biggest strengths is in his career has been game-winning drives, and he's provided none of that with the Jets. As for the receiving, like I said, I thought, Garrett made a couple plays. Devonta made a couple plays. Devonta had 5 catches on 12 targets. I mean, there were so many off-target balls thrown behind him. Same thing with Garrett, 10 targets, only 5 catches. Should have had a touchdown. Bad throw from Rodgers. Isaiah Davis had a touchdown. So that was nice to see. Young guy getting in there. Got more playing time today. Devontae obviously also had the touchdown. That was like a vintage Rodgers Devontae connection, and after that, everything went downhill. Defensively, Will McDonald's phenomenal. Will McDonald, 2 sacks today. I thought Quinnen had a really good day. He had a really good start to the drive. But Quincy had a sack, a couple plays, a couple nice tackles. I thought Sauce today, I thought was better than he's been. The 2 passes defended against DK, the one in the on the goal line, I thought was in the end zone. I thought was good. I thought Sauce probably had one of his better games in a very long time. Looked like his head was in it today. Had a pretty good game against DK for the most part. I mean, I think DK maybe had a catch or 2 on him, but other than that, it was pretty much all over him. Where DK had most of his success was the one play against Stiggers where Sauce was off the field. Stiggers had a PI, and then the one deep ball to DK on the DJ Reed play. DJ Reed much smaller, didn't really turn his head, didn't play the ball. Gino dropped it in the bucket. There's also another play where Gino dropped it in the bucket on DK and Sauce, but that was pretty much it. There was a lot of penalties, like I said, undisciplined stuff. 12 men on the field is unacceptable. And then down the stretch, I mean, 9 plays, 71 yards. It's inexcusable. And I thought earlier in the game they were tackling well. Then late in the game, not so much tackling, but they were just getting beat at the line of scrimmage. They were starting to get run down again, and that's kind of what happened. Now, Kene Nwangwu, however you pronounce his last name, apologize for that, had the big kickoff return today. He also forced the fumble on the kickoff. So what a day it was for him. He was big he might be AFC special teamer of the week. So they elevated from the practice squad before today, and he makes a big impact. So who knew that's all it took for special teams to come alive, which has been pretty disappointing this year. But defensively, it's kind of the same story. I mean, early in the game, they were doing some good things. Late in the game, penalties, and they blow it. This team, this defense, so many times this year has blown games late. So many times. And today was no different. And I will also say this. There was also a lot of self-inflicted stuff with the Seahawks. There was some questionable play calling. They had some, just the offensive line for them is awful. There was some questionable moments too with Seattle. They certainly didn't help their case to find success. But that's pretty much it, man. I'm so shot. I'm so done with this team. Like I said, I think I hit most of the key moments in this game. That's really it. I mean, there's not much more that needs to be said. You're 3-9. You're the worst coach team in football. You've got a quarterback that was brought in to help lead game-winning drives that simply can't do it. You've got a defense that bends but don't break for the most part, and then late in games, they blow it. You've got penalties all over the place, stupid penalties. And that's another thing that I always find funny. I always find it hilarious. All this coaching staff, even when Asala was here, all this coaching staff has talked about with the penalties is like the on the field stuff. You know, if it's a face mask or a horse collar, like Solomon Thomas had the horse collar. And it's, that play. The Jets, their coaching staff, their mindset has always been, if it's in the battle, like if it's in the heat of a play and you have a face mask or you have a horse collar tackle or whatever, maybe roughing the passer, depending on if it's a weak call, whatever the case may be. Their mindset as a coaching staff has always been, that those happen. The play, the ones that happen during the play, it's okay. Those are easier to swallow than pre-snap stuff. But what I find more of is it's the pre-snap stuff that actually kills this team. And that's what makes this coaching staff so incompetent, is all they talk about is, if it happens during the play, it's fine or whatever. But it's not that. It's the pre-snap. It's the lining up in the neutral zone. It's 12 men on the field. It's that nonsense. Or it's having to burn a timeout because you're going to have an illegal switch or an illegal whatever substitution. You have to burn a timeout early in the third quarter. It's those type of penalties that kill this team more than ever. That's what it is. Or it's the delay of games. That nonsense. The false starts. And I think that's the problem with this coaching staff is that they don't know how to, they're so bad. But what they've built into these players is, if you do stuff during the game, that's fine. It's the pre-snap stuff that's not allowed. Yet all that happens is the pre-snap stuff. That's all it is. It's so sad. It's so sad. So I had to get that off my chest too. I wanted to bring that up because I always find that interesting. All this coaching staff has ever talked about is that. And yet it's mainly the pre-snap stuff that kills them in these games. Or it's Quantez Stiggers. Nothing against him. Cool story and all, but he's out of his league with DK Metcalf. I mean, are we serious here? Right. I know Sauce is off the field, but you couldn't put DJ Reed on him. You couldn't put Brandon Echols on him. I would have taken anybody else over Stiggers. Nothing against Stiggers, but barely has played this year. And you're going to put him in a big spot. I think a big spot in the game, late in the game, put him up against DK Metcalf. That's not a recipe for success. That's unfair to Stiggers. It's unfair to him. Really, if we're being honest. He didn't sign up to just go play one snap and get manhandled by DK. Man, oh man. Jets football. But hey, they tanked. They're tanking actually. They're tanking properly. I'm surprised. And I know I predicted them to lose this game, but in the back of your mind as a Jet fan, especially the way they started this game, this felt like early on, this was a game they would typically win, where they start fast, December 1, December footballs arrive, meaningless December football. But no, that was not the case. They found a way to blow it. So it feels like this team could actually be, and I think they'll probably beat Jacksonville. Maybe not. I don't know. They might not beat anybody at this point, but I still think they probably squeak out 1 to 2 wins. I still find it hard to believe. And it's not because of the talent on this team or anything like that. It's just the Jets don't do this. They never tank like this. They always find ways. December comes around. They still got 4 more games in December. They're going to find a way to win a game they shouldn't. Now, I don't think they're beating the Rams, and they're definitely not beating the Bills. Those are 2 games that I'd be shocked. But would it be crazy if they win the last week of the season against Miami, especially if Miami's not playing for anything and they kind of just lay down? It's possible. I wouldn't be surprised. Where the difference, if they win that game, would be like the 3rd pick or like the 8th pick. They would find a way to win that game to completely tank themselves like 5 spots. Is it crazy to think they could beat Jacksonville? No. So they still probably pick up 2 wins. If I had to guess, they'll probably beat Jacksonville and maybe Miami the last week. But even then, if Miami's playing for something and the Jets aren't, but also in the back of your minds, like, this team is so poorly coached, they're so bad that maybe they do just suck so bad that we're going to look at like 4-13 or 3-14 when all's said and done, and they're really not going to win another game. Which, look, for the future, not winning another game is probably best. It also guarantees no more Rodgers, which I'm totally on board with because I cannot take him under center next year. So that'll do it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I mean, I don't really know what more you could be thinking other than this is just a crappy football team that does not know how to win. And we've known that. So that'll do it. Talk to you guys soon. Stay tuned. As always, JTS, Jets.